You have any questions? What is
I
that?
want to know what is the difference between Hetu and Paccaya.
Hetu and
Paccaya.
well, this was a question that came up in Western philosophy also. There were these three philosophers in the United Kingdom. Locke, Berkeley and Hume. It was Locke who pointed out that there was no such thing as a mind. There is only the body. That was the time when science began. He was from England. Oh, good. Thank you. Well, there was another philosopher who came from Ireland. It was a bishop, Berkeley. He said that is not correct. He said there is only the mind. There is no such thing as a body. So he said what we call the body is simply an idea derived from seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching. We connect all that and then think of a thing called body. So he said there is only the mind. There is no such thing as a body. So these two philosophers gave ideas that are completely opposed to each other. So there another man came from Scotland. That was Hume. He said, you are both wrong. But partly correct, because one proved that there is no such thing as a mind. And the other person proved that there is no such thing as a body. So he said there is no mind, there is no body. He said there is only what is called experience. That is seeing, hearing, smelling, tasting, touching, thinking. That is experience. He also said there is no such thing as cause and effect. There is no cause and effect. Nothing can cause anything. There are only conditions. When certain conditions are present, something comes into being. When the conditions are absent, it ceases to be. But the conditions are not causing anything. For anything to come to being, conditions are necessary. Not one condition, several conditions. So when we compare this with the teachings of the Buddha, there is a sutra in the Samyutta Nikaya. There the Buddha, that sutra is called Sabba Sutra. Sabba means all. A-L-L, all. And he says, this is the all. The eye and what is seen, the ear and what is heard, the nose and what is smelt, the tongue and what is tasted, the body and what is touched, and then the thinking and what is thought about. So this is quite similar to what Hume was saying. The ideas of Hume was similar to what the Buddha pointed out. So it's important to understand that. But there was another philosopher. He was not from England or Ireland or Scotland. He was also European man from Europe. He didn't like this idea of Hume. So he said, there are two things. He used two words, phenomenon and noumenon. Phenomenon and noumenon. Phenomenon is simply what is created by perception and thinking. The perception is mainly it's what is perceived through the eye, ears, nose, tongue. And by thinking you create the object. And that object that is created by thinking is the phenomenon. But he said, so when I look at a chair and say, this is a chair, how do I know that there is a chair there? Because I see it, I can even touch it, or smell it, taste it. And this is why I say there is a chair there. But that chair is created by our thinking. Because I am collecting the information coming from the eye, ear, nose, tongue, and the body. I put them together and say there is a chair there. But it is only a thought, a concept. So that is the phenomenon. But he said, it is true that it is only a thought in the mind, but there must be something there which when I see, it reflects the light, and when I touch it, there is something there that prevents my hand not going beyond a certain limit. So, although I cannot see it or hear it or do any of those things, but there must be something there that cannot be seen or heard or touched. And that is what he called the noumenon. So he said there are these two things, the phenomenon and the noumenon. But of course, there are other philosophers who came up and said we cannot accept that thing called noumenon. This is created by the mind. We can only speak of the phenomenon. And then these were people like Bertrand Russell and Wittgenstein. These were the two people who began to talk about this. They said, we cannot talk about a thing called truth. What we call truth is a statement. So, there are no truths in the world. There are only statements. And we can only speak of a statement that is meaningful or a statement that is meaningless. A meaningful statement is a statement based on what you see, or what you hear, or what you smell, or what you taste, or what you touch. If you speak of something that is not based on what you see, hear, smell, taste, touch, it is a meaningless statement. So if you begin to speak about a god or a devil that you have not seen or heard or smelled, then that is a meaningless statement. So, then another school of philosophy came up. They said, the purpose of human thinking is not to find truth. The purpose of human thinking is to solve problems. So, a person might be able to talk about a problem and its solution. That statement can be verified. You can try that method of solving the problem, and if it solves the problem, then we can call that a truth, because it solves the problem. If it doesn't solve the problem, then it is not a truth. So what can be called truth is the solution to a problem that works. a solution that works. Then another kind of philosophy came up. They said, these various philosophers are talking about various problems. They are unimportant problems. There is only one important problem in the world. That every human being, out of all the animals in the world, it is the human being that is aware of his own existence. They think that they are existing. Not only that, they are also aware that they are going to die. Every person who is born into this world begins to grow old, fall sick, and die. That is the most important problem in the world. But these philosophers spoke about this problem, but they didn't know how to solve it. One of these philosophers was a man named Kierkegaard. He said, can't help, the human mind is not capable of solving that problem. And therefore, we have to take what he called the leap of faith and pray to God to solve that problem. That was his solution. He was a person who criticized, he was a Christian who criticized Christianity. And ultimately he had to accept Christianity because his solution was to get God to help. But there was another man, these are what are called the existentialists. There was another existentialist, his name was Sartre. And he said, there is no other way to solve this problem the only way is he became a Marxist. He wanted to get help from Karl Marx. and he died as a Marxist. But Karl Marx couldn't solve that problem. Although he went to Marxism, but there was another philosopher who pointed out the only way this problem can be solved is by the human mind. The human being has to develop the mind to the level of a god, and only by developing this mind that the human being will be able to solve it. Of course, he was not able to solve it, but he pointed out that the human being has to make the effort. But long before these philosophers came into being, it was the Buddha who solved this problem. The problem, how did he solve the problem? That philosopher called Nietzsche, who said that the human being has to develop the mind. And that is what the Buddha did. Long before Nietzsche was born, it was the Buddha who developed the mind to a certain level where he began to realize that the existentialists who brought out the problem or pointed to this problem, they are making a mistake. What is the mistake they are making? The mistake is that they are thinking that they exist. Existence is the mistake. Existence is a static concept in a dynamic reality. What does that mean? That is very important to understand. Static means things are not changing. Now, the past, present, and future, we are thinking of time in the form of a past, present, and future. But past is something that has gone and finished. The past doesn't exist. And the future is something that has not even come. Therefore, the future doesn't exist. Is the present existing? The present is becoming the past every fraction of a second. The present is becoming the past. that means the present is also not existing. So if the past doesn't exist, the present doesn't exist, and the future doesn't exist, how can you talk about existence? Existence is a delusion. That is the meaning of the word moha. Moha is a delusion. It is because we think we are existing. We are thinking of a past, present and future that exists. As long as we keep on thinking that we are existing, we are suffering. We are thinking of birth, old age and death. We think the past is birth and the future is death, and the present is aging, changing all the time. So the important thing is to understand that we are not existing. If we are not existing, can we die? Before we can die, we have to exist. So if we don't exist, we cannot die. You see? It is only when we are able to see this properly that we become free of the problem of suffering. You understand? You have to awaken from the dream of existence. Awakening from the dream of existence is what is called Samma Sambodhi. A Buddha is the person, Buddha means one who has awakened from the dream of existence.
Bhante, back to the question.
Huh?
Back to the question, what is Hetu, what is Paccaya?
What's that?
The same question, what is Hetu, what is Paccaya?
What are the two words you are saying?
Hetu and
Hetu and Paccaya. Hetu and Paccaya.
Cheto.
Hetu, H-E-T-U.
Hetu.
Yeah, and Paccaya.
Hetu means cause. The word Hetu means cause. Now, I told you, Hume said there is no such thing as a cause. If you say something is a cause, that means that thing caused something else. We are only talking about conditions. So, Hetu Paticca Sambhutang, The word Hetu is not a cause. The Hetu is a condition. Hetum paticca sambhutam. When the conditions are present, something happens.
Paccaya means?
Huh?
Paccaya?
Paccaya means prati aya. That means before. That is why I use that word antecedent. Antecedent means an incident that is there before. Antecedent is an incident that is before some other incident. Huh? So these are antecedents. Paccaya means that prati aya. Prati means before, aya means being there, existence.
So Bhante is not from.
Huh?
It's definitely not from.
What's that?
Paccaya is not from.
No, not from. No.
Some people translate as
Huh?
some translators use from.
No, that is because they are thinking of cause and effect.
Yeah, cause and effect.
Yeah. This is not cause and effect. No.
I think the whole Burmese tradition is cause and effect.
Yeah.
This happened and that happened. This happened and that happened.
Yeah.
And they try to escape from it.
This is why we use the word condition. Now, when you talk about conditions, the Western philosophers talk about what is called a necessary condition. An essential condition. When certain things are present, it becomes a necessary condition for something to happen. Now, for example, if you want to get a flame, you want flame to light your cigarette, or maybe you want a flame to cook something. And so, what you do is, today we have what is called the matchstick. So you strike the match. Now, that striking produces the flame. But if there was no gunpowder or something at the tip of that match, do you think there will be a flame? So that means, it is one of the conditions necessary for the flame to arise. But you can't say that was the cause of the flame coming up. You see? That striking the match is not the cause. Because there were several conditions. You need but if you had the gunpowder there at the tip, but you didn't strike the match, will the flame come up? No. So the match striking is also a necessary condition.
Oxygen also.
Oxygen must be there in the air. So several conditions are necessary for this thing to happen. Not just one condition. So therefore you cannot call it a cause.
So Bhante,
Yeah?
the whole world is looking for reason. They should look.
What's that?
The whole world is looking for reasons. They should look for conditions then, right? Instead of reasons.
Yeah, yeah.
Everyone wants a reason. Why it is happening? Why?
There are no causes in this world. There are only
They're all
conditions.
conditions.
No causes.
These are all conditions. So, huh?
So even for a murderer, they should look for the
What's that?
Even for a murderer.
For a?
Even for a murderer. Killer or a murderer. They should look for the necessary condition rather for the cause.
Somebody is murdered.
Huh? Ah, murder. Ah.
So you should look for necessary conditions for the murder
Yeah.
rather than the cause of the murder.
Yeah.
You've got to rewrite Sherlock Holmes then.
Everything.
Ah.
I mean, even the whole justice system,
Huh?
the whole justice system may have to change in these sort of lights because they're always looking for reasons.
Causes.
Yeah, you are asking for causes,
Yeah, they're always asking.
but there are no causes.
And there are also no doers.
Huh?
There are also no doer.
There is no doer also, yeah. There is no doer.
Then no one who suffers.
Yeah.
In the murder, there is only the murdering.
No victim, no cause.
It's an accumulation of conditions.
Murdering and suffering.
Accumulation of mass.
Yeah.